Welcome to the Bourbon Talk Show, the ABV Network's original YouTube series where we interview some of the most interesting people from the world of bourbon. Today on the show, we'll be talking to Kris Koenig of Golden Beaver Distillery out of Chico, California, and Cailee Baker of the Leatherwood Distillery in Pleasant View, Tennessee. My name is McNew. Please join me in welcoming our co-host for the evening, Steve Akley.
Hey gang, what's up? How you guys doing?
Hey.
Oh, so yeah, we've got a fun show today. So just want to acknowledge my guests here, Kris and Cailee. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So this is going to be fun.
Great.
Yeah, really appreciate you guys helping out. Those who will watch the show every week, of course, we talk about who's going to be on next week, and we talked about the Eckstein family going to be on from Deer Hammer Distilling, and that was the scheduled to be up until about 2 hours ago when I got the call that they would not be able to make it on, and Arlo got hurt at school and he had to be in the hospital, and they were just, even if they got out in time, they're like, it's not a good, and I agree,
Yeah, it's not a good day.
He's on medication, and they've had the whole family's had a stressful day, so we'll get them on next season. Of course, this is the finale for season 2. We'll get them on next season, so that'll be pretty cool. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. This is the last show of season 2, and then we will be back in February. We'll talk about the exact date at the end of the show. We're going to have a little bit of a format change next year because McNew never gets the chance to ask guest questions. So every interview from this point forward, including we'll try it tonight, since we're it's a little bit different. McNew has to ask a question, so McNew will be asking. There'll be the McNew question, so she gets to ask one of each of the guests. So you can be working on that, McNew. That'll be coming. I'll just throw it out there. Okay, it's time for the McNew question.
Oh gosh. Okay, we'll roll with it. It's gonna be good.
We'll roll with it. We'll see how it goes. We'll see. This is like a test audience on the live studio.
Live interviews.
All right. Before we get started, of course, we like to talk about the bourbon industry, what's going on in the world of bourbon. We share 3 stories. So the first one up, McNew, did you see this? There's a photo in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new bourbon. It's a sourced product. It's called Turkey Tom, and it's rolling out across the country right now. It comes in an old school decanter, of course, that looks like a turkey. And the company behind it's called Ico Importers. Don't have any idea who that is, but apparently it's a 2-year-old MGP bourbon and retails about $70. Now,
okay, so I saw this decanter photo that you have in our script, and it looks very much like an old school wild turkey decanter.
Exactly.
And I'm very confused on how they're not
that letter is probably in the mail as we record this. There's no way they're not going to come after them. That's just not possible.
I'll go get it during our break. I have an old school wild turkey decanter. I put it on my table every Thanksgiving. It's empty, but I love him. He's festive. It looks so much like this.
So
it's wild.
There,
it does.
Yeah. That looks like
and without the pumpkin.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they got this passed, but
well, I mean,
think he's cute though, but
I think they're going to be in some trouble. I would imagine they got to hear, even from the name too. When you hear Sazerac, anything with a buffalo or an eagle, or you can't have bison because it's buffalo. I mean, it's just, this is too close to me. But so I very much dislike the idea of infringing on other people's stuff, but I think the idea of bringing back the decanters is a good one. I do think that on a limited basis, not where we were at, in the 70s where there's a million of them, but I think, each distillery doing something with them, I think would sell really well. I
think like a holiday decanter, like a Christmas, Thanksgiving, I think people would really be into that.
Yeah,
or
I do too.
Like an Uncle Sam for 4th of July. I think that would be a cool concept. But
so
this one's
it's interesting for sure. So, but and obviously they're coming out with it this time of the year for Thanksgiving, but we'll see how that goes for them. So, number 2 here, I think this is also going to be huge. Did you see this? Jack Daniel's has a new single barrel product called Coy Hill High Proof. I don't know what the Coy Hill comes from, probably something near the distillery, I would guess. But of course, there's single barrels, but that are all high proof. And the first batch that they've been sending out, some of the barrels are as high as 148 proof.
I think that's exciting. And I think there's a lot of people, bourbon lovers especially, that want to hate on Jack Daniel's because they do want to be a Tennessee whiskey. Like, let them be what they want to be. Right. But I think the high proof is going to get some different people interested. And I think that's cool.
Yeah. I feel like hazmat is a thing that really, because it seems like people want more and more. They want the proof. And, people
They
say,
do.
I'm all about the proof. I'm the proof. That's too low of proof. Well, this
Mhm.
obviously is hazmat, which of course used to be a thing from like George T. Stagg and Elijah Craig, but they haven't been over that 140 in years and
Right.
years. So this is interesting. Of course, it's a big product. We've seen some smaller brands coming out with some hazmat stuff, but of course, Jack Daniel's, the biggest whiskey company in the world, at least out of America, they, a 148 proof is amazing. So yeah, I think it's going to be big.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tough
I
one
do
to
too.
find, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And the last one is just an informational thing. So, of course, the ABV Network, us, McNew, we've partnered with Neely Family Distillery to raise money for noted moonshiner Michael Stallings, known as Moonshine Mike. And we're selling tickets for $100, 100% of which goes to Michael and his wife. He's been struggling with leukemia for a little bit over a year now. And of course, he's been hospitalized for maybe over a month at this point, and it's been
It's been a
going through
while.
treatment and stuff like that. It's really been struggling. It's got to be tough on him. His wife, of course, his wife's father passed away while they're in the hospital, so it's just been an incredibly difficult time. Royce and I have been talking about doing something where, how do we do it? What can we do? What can we do? And we finally came up with this idea of, he's got this bottled and bond moonshine that's going to be coming out with his new distillery that'll be opening in March. And he's going to be barreling that in conjunction with that opening. And he said, whoever wins a drawing, everybody who buys a ticket is going to be in a drawing. And whoever wins gets bottle number one. They win it outright. They win bottle number one. First ever bottled and bond moonshine, ever. A bottle and bond
It's
moonshine.
amazing.
Amazing. That's a great prize. And then if you buy two of the $100 tickets, you can buy a numbered one. So he's going to number the first 100. So if you buy two of the $100 tickets, you can actually buy one of the bottled and bond bottles of moonshine. You have to buy that the one. The first one is a giveaway. The rest of them you would have to buy when it comes out. But that's still a pretty amazing deal. And then the distillery will get bottle number 101. So usually he likes to have bottle number one, but in this case, because we're trying to do something good for somebody, he's turning that over to fans can get that, which I think is pretty darn cool. So
yeah, I think it's a cool concept. It's a great fundraiser for great people, and I hope it's gonna work out well.
I hope it's super successful, and it's going to culminate on November 9th. So that's just next week. That'll be next Tuesday. We're going to do a live drawing. We're going to draw it live on a Zoom event. So if you buy that ticket on Eventbrite, so check my Eventbrite page, just search Steve Akley on Eventbrite, and you should be able to find it. If not, if you have any difficulty, of course, just reach out. I'm an easy guy to find, as I like to say. Steve Akley, anywhere.
You're easier to find when you search online events. Don't do your local events. Do online. You'll find Steve.
Do online. Don't do local. I'm not in your area, unless you're in Oakville, Missouri. Then maybe search local. All right. Well, that's what's going on in the world of news today, McNew. How about that?
Good news. It's all good news.
Good news. All right. Our first guest has had a successful career in the film industry before entering the world of distillation, as most people do. That's where most of distillery owners come from. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Kris Koenig of Golden Beaver Distillery. Hey, Kris, how you doing, man?
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
That's good.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, we always like to start off with just kind of a personal and fun question. And what's kind of, vacations like? What do you like to do when you go on vacation? Do you like to is it a beach vacation all the time? Is it hiking and climbing? Is it rafting? What's or Vegas? You like to go gamble? What's the big vacation for you?
The big vacation is go to our cabin in Colorado.
Okay.
So we have a cabin up off the Ketchlaputa River.
Okay.
In northern Colorado, actually up and right next to where my dad was raised, up in the hills there. And so we go back there. I was a former employee of Skin Diver magazine, so I have spent way too much time at the beach in my life. So the mountains are where we hang out, my wife and I. So
very nice.
Yeah, it's mainly to go up there to go fly fishing. We love fly fishing.
Love fly fishing. I'm sure that's an opportunity to reset, right? You go up there, just kind of clear your mind and just do nothing but do a little fly fishing. That's cool.
That's it. You can't think about anything else other than fishing when you fly fish. So
yeah,
gotta focus on that fish, and that does take out the stress. I mean, running distilleries like any other business, and you jump from crisis to crisis all day long and solving problems. And You still have to do the marketing, the mash bills, the recipes, the long-term planning, and it's usually done on a small group basis. So you're putting in 10 to 12-hour days, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So.
And you had a career in the film industry, made multiple documentaries and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about that career before we start talking about whiskey and all the great things you got going on at Golden Beaver.
Yeah, got involved in making documentaries back in 2002, 2003. Got hired as a consultant, subject consultant. Moved into the field producer on this project, came back, ended up being the writer. And it was a 20-part, 10-hour series for PBS on astronomy. And got super lucky and got 2 Emmys for the work.
That's not bad, man.
So,
Cool.
yeah. So that kind of started the filmmaking career, and jumped off and started doing a lot of small projects, did some big stuff. We did some PBS science specials for national broadcast. Did one with Neil deGrasse Tyson, did another one on the Second Amendment with Ice-T. The last one was on human vision, called Sight, the Story of Vision, with Sir Elton John. So I've been really super lucky to work with some great people in the industry, and just I love filmmaking, but I lost my wife and partner who got me into the business to cancer, and the fire for doing filmmaking went away, and I moved right into whiskey, which was had been a hobby, and then became a survival thing there for a while, and then it was just logic to start shining in the garage, and then that grew over a period of 4 or 5 years to actually building this distillery.
Okay. So I know you're into astronomy and stuff like that. Is that then conducive to be also be into astrology? And if so, McNew has a lot of questions for you. No. Okay, good.
No, not at all.
McNew's crazy about that stuff. I don't know. I just think she's crazy.
I do go into some deep dives on some weird stuff sometimes. It's okay.
Well, it's up to the individual to make up what they feel is their spiritual universe. It's not a group decision. So try not to judge on the astrology thing at all.
So, and obviously you worked with some big names there, Ice-T and Elton John, of course. He's one of the all-time greats. So what are those folks like, really? Because we always like, if we're not around celebrities, if you live in St. Louis, you're not around celebrities. What are they really like?
They're just normal people. I mean, the day I met Ice-T, walked into the recording studio in Las Vegas. He was about 45 minutes late. Brought his wife, his 2 bulldogs, and carrying a chili dog. And I just and the producer, and drinking a soda. And the producer of me says, "This is not going to work in about an hour." But he's a super cool guy, good reader. He reads very well, and his wife is just a charmer. She's not what you think she'd be like, and she's just great. Yeah. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson's Neil deGrasse Tyson. I mean, if you see him on TV, that's what he's like. He's really super smart. He does like to hold court a bit. So if you do see him in a hotel lobby bar sometime, don't be afraid to walk up to him and ask him your astronomy question, because he likes to answer questions and talk about astronomy and science. So he's cool. And then, but the gentleman in the group is Sir Elton John. Absolutely super cool guy. Agreed to do this the read for us as my wife's dying wish, and was super cool to do it. We walked in. I got off a plane at 6 a.m. in Heathrow, took a shower, had a cup of coffee, showed up at his studio at 8. He showed up about 8:20, sat down, and was absolutely practiced. He had read the script. This is unheard of in voice acting. It's usually read it right there for the first time. Had studied the terminology, knew what he was reading. knew how to affect his sentences and his voice to fit the scene. And 45 minutes later, we were wrapped, and it was unbelievable. We actually took that VO. We got that VO uploaded onto. I think we used at that point one of like Dropbox. I think we put all the stems on Dropbox. I got on a plane, flew to Las Vegas. My son picked me up after bringing the whole film with him, already with all that audio laid back, which had been done in about 18 hours, and we premiered that film 2 hours after I landed in Las Vegas.
Wow.
And so it was a special couple 3 days. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, very cool. So I've got a quick, because you're a fan of the ABV Network. You listen to our programming, stuff like that, and you've got an eye for the talent. You worked with voiceover folks. Who do you think is the best reader out of these 5 ABV Network people? So these are, kind of the main 5 that are on the show. So myself, McNew, Miss Becca Sue, Jeremy, and Renee. Who is the best reader? If you had to hire someone for a film, who do you think would be the best? We're not talking about voice talent here. I'm talking about the best reader. The best reader.
Okay. I'm going to tell you, the best reader, probably by far, is Jeremy.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy has a good, steady voice. Doesn't do a lot of ahs and ahs. He's very good. Rebecca's great. McNew, however, she's her growth in the last 2.5 years I've been listening to her has been amazing. She's getting very polished. She's getting very good. And then there's you. I mean, you write the script, so you read the script very well. So you're a little bit of a disadvantage to the others that way. But here's the way you should look at it. You should have a challenge contest later on. In what role should these people read? Because each has a very distinctive style, and each can lend themselves to a specific subject. And that's the question. What subject should they be reading?
Yeah.
And because they're all very good. You have a great crew, and they do a great job.
Yeah.
And I think all in all, you're a great set of ambassadors to the world of spirits and specifically bourbon.
Okay. Thank you. I will say I have the least amount of commercial retakes. That's behind the scenes.
Yes. When we do commercials, which is our closest thing to being, something, because with a show, if we screw up, we just keep going. That's the fun of the show, I think.
Right.
But when it comes to commercial time, the person who's going to nail it in one take is McNew. I mean, she's the best at that for sure. So Becca and I are the worst, by the way. We're definitely at the bottom. We're finding out who's going to be.
No, see, you just read from the heart. That's different. A good writer edits as they read, right?
Yes.
And a good reader will edit while they read as well, and their brain will rewrite the sentence. And there's a lot of times we sit as we're in a booth and we're with a reader, and they're reading the script. They'll not read what we wrote, and you kind of, after they get done, you hold for a second, you go back and think about it, listen to it. Does that work in that scene? And they might have rewrote it better than what was originally written. So, the brain is just a wonderful instrument. It needs to be applied, and some greatest things come out of someone's mouth after they've read it. And Ice-T is excellent for that. Ice-T. We kind of co-wrote a lot of that script at the same time when he was reading it in Vegas, and it worked. It worked for his voice and as his personality.
Yeah, so very cool. So you get into you decide the next career move for you is you're going to own a distillery. So tell us a little bit about who you wanted to be. So because you have to do that because there's a lot of distilleries out there. So it's like what's the identity of your distillery?
Well, our identity of our distillery is Northern California and rice. Mm-hmm. And the reason we're called Golden Beaver Distillery, there used to be 2 million Golden Beaver up here in the North Valley of California. And a lot of your viewers or listeners don't know, California has 2 major rivers that come out of the North State. One is the Sacramento River and one is the Feather River. And Chico is right in between both those rivers. And the beaver habitat was basically from Chico all the way down to Sacramento and what we would call the Delta region. And that was all covered in beavers. And beavers created the environment for what we call the Pacific Flyway, which is one of the largest waterfowl migrations in the world. Also for our salmon and also our trout populations were all based because of the beavers' work in the valley and also in the foothills. And in 1800s, a guy named Jedediah Smith came rolling up the valley and used to work for the Hudson Bay Company. Sent off a letter about all these beautiful beavers that are up here and their beautiful color. And 2 years later, ships rolled in to the north coast of California. And over a series of about 4 years, the beavers got wiped out. The beavers have been since replaced in modern times by the California rice farmer. And the California rice farmer has taken that habitat, which used to be wetlands that the beavers maintained, and have turned it into wetlands for growing rice.
Mm-hmm.
And they also flood those fields after they harvest the rice. They flood those fields so that the migration continues with the waterfowl. And so plays a big role. That's, we use rice in our spirits here, and we think it's the neglected grain in whiskey. And we're trying to change that by putting it back into, we have a 4-grain bourbon. We have a sample of it here. Actually, MGP had done something 7 years ago. We bought up all those barrels and we blend them here, and we do our Pacific Flyway with that. But we'll be releasing our rice whiskey that we produce here in about 2 weeks. And it's all made from local Northern California Calrose rice and rice malt. Right. And so it's our identity, if you're asking. That's the rice. And so that's where we got it from. We looked around, went to, you can do so much in your garage and read so many books. And I've been studying production and whiskey for about 10 years prior to jumping off and doing this. And but you can't go up to a banker or a potential investor and say, "Hey, I want to do distillery." And the guy goes, "Well, you got any experience? Where's your diploma?" Right. So you have to go up to some place like Moonshine University to get that credibility. Mm-hmm. And so I went to Moonshine, and of course they just affirmed you have to do it local. Whatever you're doing needs to be local, needs to talk about where you're from and what you're doing. And the rice thing fell right in place.
Yeah.
So
it's used so infrequently though in American whiskey. How much experimenting are you doing? Because you're like, yeah, I want to be local. I want to incorporate, what our area of the world is into our whiskey. I get that. But how are you then? How much practice do you do in making, distillate to then say, yeah, this is going to be good enough I want to invest in this. I want to lay it down. I want to age it. And this is going to be our product moving forward.
Well, I should bring my wife in here sometime to talk to you about this. Because at one point in our house, we had 30 8-gallon little mash buckets going with different rice and barley and rice malt and all different types of mashes going. And we went through those. We distilled all those. We brought them back and tasted them. Threw that one out, kept that one in, and kept moving through it. And so we did that for about 3 years, working through the different mash bills to get to what we liked. And but rice is a super grain to work with, unlike a lot of, let's say, corn or rye, especially that have very distinctive flavors and they're very solid to that flavor. Rice will take on whatever you want it to do. So depending on your yeast, really heavily influenced by yeast, it's very heavily influenced by the fermentation, and then the way it's distilled. So we actually make 5 products from one mash bill, but the way that we process it gives it a completely different taste. And it's super great product. And I think the reason why it hasn't been used in Western distilling is that distillers were just xenophobic. Rice was just an Asian thing. It wasn't a Western thing. And it just wasn't used. It just wasn't one of those things that you'd go out and grab. And it didn't match American history of whiskey making either, right? It starts with rye, corn is introduced, bourbon is introduced, and that was the chain of events for American whiskey.
Yeah.
And it got established without rice, and so rice is never reintroduced or
Yeah.
never introduced. And so it's a great grain. We hope to create a new category here with rice whiskey. I know that there's a distillery down in Louisiana that's introducing their rice whiskey as well this month that they're bottling it. So I wish them the best with it, because just like single malt is taken off here in the United States, I'm really hoping that rice whiskey will take off and it'll become an American category.
You know who is the godfather of American rice whiskey? And this is a person you need to talk to, is Jerry Dalton, the former only non-family member to ever be a master distiller for Jim Beam. He was a master distiller there for 9 years. Very unfortunate that they don't give him the respect he should get. He's not on the bottle. He's not on their website. There's no mention of Jerry Dalton anywhere. It's like his career was erased. But he was a guy who was coming out with experimenting in rice. He wrote a book on Eastern philosophy. So I'm sure this plays into exactly what we're talking about here. This would be a guy that you should talk to. He's in his, mid 80s to upper 80s at this point. But, he knows whiskey. I mean, we're the only people that have ever interviewed him. You can listen to that interview on the Bourbon Show. Classic interview. And that all came about because it's just a fan. We did a show about his career, what we knew. There's not that much. I Google him. There's not that much out there. And we did a show about him, and he found that on Google and reached out to us and said, if you want to talk to me, well, he's never done anything like that. Hasn't done anything before that. Never done anything since that. But yeah.
Right. Well, we'll have to talk about chasing him down someday.
Yeah.
Because I would like to talk to him. He did an excellent job on the brown rice.
Yep.
That they did about 6 years ago. It was really good. And again, you ask yourself, why didn't anybody pick that up? I mean, we did bourbons great. A rice bourbon, like I'm drinking right now, is just as great. It's actually a little more complex. It adds extra layers. This is probably the most layered whiskey you can drink. You put it on a rock and start sipping, and over 45 minutes, you will taste a dozen different layers of whiskey. And rice just adds a really cool complexity. It's a little sweeter, and it's also a little nuttier because of the rice.
Yeah. It's such a starchy grain. Is it easier to utilize than other things? Or have you tried, just making a traditional mash bill for bourbon and versus rice mash bill? And what are your thoughts?
They basically produce at the same rate, nothing really changes. You cook the same. We pre-dose our water with a little alpha amylase, or we'll throw a little extra barley in, and as the mash water's heating up to keep everything from balling up. But we throw the corn and the rice in together for the bourbon and cook it for 90 minutes, just like you would a standard bourbon, and then cool it off to 150, toss in the barley, do the conversion, and we throw in some additional enzymes if we don't think it's converting correctly, if necessary, and take it down to the temperature to inoculate. But it produces just like any other grain.
Yeah.
And on its own, when you're just doing rice on its own, we probably do. It's not probably. I know exactly. We do about 4 tons a week here of rice, and the staff loves it. It's easy to work with, easy to clean up. We don't have to worry about a big mess. The mill works very well with it. And we actually have a mill that we designed that's we call a dustless mill. It's not 100% dustless, but my guys can work without having to worry about changing the clothes when they get done milling. So it's very cool. So it's a good grain, and it's also very cost effective. I mean, we're actually using grains that is considered mill waste, because people don't want to buy what they call broken grain for their rice. So the broken grains fall through a screen and that's what we use. That's what we buy, is that broken. It's called brokens. And so we're actually utilizing a product that would normally be thrown out or fed to the dogs, literally fed to the dogs.
Right.
So
And there's so many different kinds of rice. Are you going to start over time experimenting with different rice grains and things like that, or are you kind of locked in with what you think you've got, and that's what you're going to be making your whiskey with?
We'll play. I've played with Jasper. I've played with some others. We've played with some brown rice and some wild rice. Brown rice is just leaving the husk on the kernel, so it just adds another dimension to the flavor. We really like the Calrose rice. Calrose rice is what we're using, and it's a very sought after grain in Asian culinary, dishes. It's used for sushi, and most of in fact, I would say 90% of the Calrose rice that's grown here in Northern California all gets shipped over to Asia. It's not consumed here in the U.S. So we are trying to bring it in and use it here because it's very high in starch. Like you said, it converts very well. Our other distillers listening, our mashes end up somewhere at 18 to 20 bricks off of a standard mash. So that's, corn, I don't use a lot of the corn, but when we're doing the corn here, we're bumping 16, and that's a good day. So I think we're getting a better conversion on it. So it's just we just think it's a great grain, and it needs a little love. Yeah.
What's consumer reaction to it? Is it something that they're just naturally curious in and want to try? Or are they standoffish and don't want to try it? What's been the reaction as people come into your distillery? You're like, this is what we've got.
Yeah, no, it's well received. We've won a platinum from the Ascot Awards. We've gotten 90s at San Francisco and New York, and we're waiting to see what Barley Corn Society comes out with, hopefully next week. And it's received well. I think some of the judges show a little bit of xenophobic attitude towards it because it has a very vegetable smell to it, which is just rice. Rice has that smell, and they're not used to it. So we get knocked down a few points here and there by some judges because they don't know what they're smelling. So there's an education curve there that we got to kind of deal with. But it's well received, and we've had see who I'm thinking who would be really good. I know that we got one comment from the Ascot Awards. I don't know if Fred wrote the comment or not, but said, not my usual go-to spirit, but I need to reconsider. So I'll take that as acceptance that rice spirit has a place to go.
Yeah.
It is the most valuable spirit in the world, is a Mutai out of China, which is a type of rice spirit that's also made with other grains, and it's the most valuable spirit in the world. So rice needs its day in the West.
Yes. Yeah, I think, and I think whiskey fans are always looking for something different. So I think they're very receptive to trying different things. And then, they're smart enough to then base what they like on taste. And so long as it delivers on the taste. And like you said, I've tasted your stuff. It's fantastic. It is very layered in flavor. It's really good stuff. So yeah, people should be trying it.
Thanks. Well, we're going to do a release here. Like I said, it'll be the third and last bottling of the Pacific Flyaway that was MGP barrels.
Okay.
Those 5 barrels I bought those. There's 5 barrels that they'd done as part of a University of Michigan distilling experiment. And there were 5 barrels in their warehouse, and we bought them. They're now almost 8 years old. Super good juice. It's just a very complex. You've had it, like you said.
Right.
And then we're going to be doing our own rice whiskey. It'll be coming out, which is the Pacific Flyway rice whiskey. So this is rice bourbon, and the other one will be rice whiskey. So those will be coming out next week. And we're not, we're kind of limited to our California distribution. But if you have a friend in California, they can sell a bottle of olive oil this Christmas. They can buy it and send it to you.
There you go.
So.
All right. Well, guess what time it is? It's time for the hot new segment on the show. It's called McNew's Question. So McNew, what's your question for our guest?
I have been thinking about a question, and it's kind of off topic of the bourbon, but a little bit. So it's called Pacific Flyway, and you talked about the birds there. You had a video today of your dog, and it's the first day of pheasant hunting. So tell us a little bit about that. Is that a hobby that you get into? Like, are you into the bird hunting and all that?
Yes, 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 and yes. So again, if you live up here, you got to take up duck hunting, and we also have great property for doing pheasant hunting. So today was a pheasant hunting day. You have to be rich to duck hunt. I'm not quite there because I own a distillery, but I do get taken out to other folks' blinds and stuff. So when I do get the invite, we go. And Rio, the dog you saw in the video today, is he's a super dog. He's been great. He's been easy to train. He took third when he was 9 months old in a hunting contest out at one of the clubs, and that's unheard of for his age.
Wow.
And so he's a superstar, and he's the sweetest dog you'd ever want to be around and love. And I hope some good hunters get those abandoned puppies in the back should go to some good hunters.
Yes.
So there's nothing better than a relationship between a hunter and his dog.
True.
So
Very true.
it's good therapy, because just like fly fishing, when you get out there, you got to forget about everything else, or you'll screw up and miss the bird. And there's nothing worse than having your dog look back over his shoulder and say, "What the hell, man? How'd you miss that?"
Your dog's judging you for
Judging
missing.
you. Yes. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
It's even worse in the blind, because they sit right next to you in the blind, and it's, and they've been out there and they're freezing their ass off because they're out on the platform.
Mhm.
They're already wet and they're cold, and you missed the bird, and that means they got to wait some more. So it's a good relationship.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I could see McNew out there hunting with Milo. Her and Milo out
Not
there.
Milo. I could take Sosa. Sosa loves fetching. He's chaotic though. I don't know how long he'd sit, but he loves fetching. He'd go get a bird probably. He'd love it.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Kris, last question. We always like to have fun on the last one. So the last question is, what is the best Quentin Tarantino movie? And the answer of no, Tarantino movies are terrible is wrong. It's wrong. We'll have to hang up on you.
I'm torn. Pulp
He's the
Fiction's
greatest
great.
American filmmaker currently.
living. Yeah, Pulp Fiction is great. I can't remember the title to the Western he had just done.
Django?
Probably. Not Django, the other one. He did another one.
Yes, he did.
Excuse me?
I said, yes, he did. I can't think of the name either.
Both had Waltz in it, and excellent writing in those. What is the name of that film? All right,
looking.
Google time. I'm
I am.
gonna
McNew's
Google
got it.
break.
She's got it.
Okay,
I'm looking.
but
Hold on.
that's got to be one of the better ones.
Oh, The
So,
Hateful Eight. The Hateful Eight was wonderful.
Hateful Eight.
Yes.
Hateful
Yeah,
Eight, yes.
yeah.
How did we forget that? The Hateful Eight.
I know.
They're all great because it's writing. That's the key with that guy.
It's
of
all
course he's a
writing.
great director, but man, the
Mhm.
dialogue, the writing, there's nobody else like that. And people who don't like that, they don't have the patience. I think a lot of people
Mhm.
who don't appreciate him don't have the patience for what he's doing. And it's dialogue driven, and you just don't see that in movies. They'd rather just let's shoot something up with a laser gun. That's cool.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's cool having people
And-
talk. And
Well, the dinner scene in Django, probably the best writing in cinema in the last 20 years.
Mhm.
And the acting's amazing on that. Inglourious Bastards had a couple good scenes, again, well written,
Mhm.
well. So
Christoph
he's
Waltz.
just-
I
he's,
mean, how tense were some of those scenes with it? I'm watching a movie at my house, not even at the theater. I'm watching this movie, and I'm on the edge of my seat. It's tense because of dialogue. At the beginning, when the family's under the floor, he's talking and all that, and you could see he's very friendly, and then he's taking it over the conversation, and then you realize he is a psychopath, and you see that family underneath there. Gosh darn, you get goosebumps. I mean.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
And directing. I mean, that's amazing.
And you got to give him credit for acting. I mean,
Oh yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
as you guys know, as readers, it could be the best written prose going. And if you can't read it correctly, it doesn't work. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I think he knows his actors. Like he lets Christoph Waltz be a beautiful, quirky weirdo who gets to be serious at times, and
Yeah.
I love his
Yep.
read of almost every actor. He does a great job with them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there you
Good
go.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, Chris, you got time to stick around with us?
Yeah, well, we got the happy hour just started here, so I can.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
I may
Well,
I may swing out for some more ice cubes, but I'm
okay.
here.
We'll
I
keep
got
you
my
around,
headphones
and
on.
yeah, we like to do a little Q&A at the end of the show with the studio audience too after we turn off the recorder.
Sure.
So keep you around for that. We'll
Mhm.
also at the end have plugs, anything you want to share and stuff like that. We kind of do all that in the last segment. So okay.
Sounds great. Sounds
All
great.
right,
Thanks
well-
again, Steve.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on, especially with the short notice. All right, what we're going to do next, we'll take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to be talking to Cailee Baker. We'll do that in just a few.
Today's show is sponsored by Moonshine University. Moonshine University offers programs to assist individuals in the bourbon industry or simply fans wanting to step up their knowledge. Whether you are looking for in-person learning in the classrooms of Moonshine University or looking for self-study online, there are options to fit your unique needs. Check them out at moonshineuniversity.com. And we're also sponsored by the ABV Network's Distiller Summit in Key West, Florida. This 4-day event features events and networking opportunities from January 27th through 30th, 2022. And there's no better place in the world to be than sunny Key West. Get more information on our website at abvnetwork.com.
Yes, exciting week because the schedule is out. We got the agenda out.
I
We've
know.
got a couple events, and some people are booking the tickets for those events already. So very cool stuff. And Chris, of course, is going. He's going to be with us in Key West.
Yeah.
Exciting.
And he's
Absolutely.
booked a dinner, and he's booked a walking tour. So he's good to
Nice.
go. So he's ready. So,
Booking my fishing guide, and
yeah.
got
Oh, yeah.
a couple dinners already lined up for my wife and I. So looking forward to it.
Very nice. Kailee, you are supposed to be going. Are you still in?
Yes, we're still in. I haven't officially booked anything yet, but I talked to my cousin that is the Fucklehead. He's actually Buddy Fucklehead. If you look at any of the videos online, he has a nice like handlebar mustache and is a real creep sometimes, but he's hilarious. But he found out that we wanted to go down there, and he was like, "Well, I'll just pull down just leave it down there for you guys for the weekend." And we were like, okay, so check that off the list. Don't have to find an Airbnb or hotel. So
Yeah, that's
we're definitely coming down. I'm more of a last minute planner. I'll probably book all my stuff. But I won't.
You set an agenda this week and stressed me out because usually I've like already booked things and I'm like, I should probably get on board and do that right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two other big I mean, ours is the biggest festival that's going to be there, but there's two other big festivals going on too. So
Yeah.
it's a big deal. So yeah,
Get to booking.
Get to booking for sure. All right. Well, our next guest works at Leatherwood Distillery, but our audience probably knows her best as a frequent guest on the Bourbon Daily. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Cailee Baker. Hey, Cailee. What's going on?
Hello. Thank you.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I got bourbon in my hand. How can I not be good?
It's not bad, right? It's not bad. What I like about Cailee is she's very enthusiastic. So, I'm in this pinch. I get this last minute notification. I send a note to Cailee. Can you come on? And she's like, yes, like exclamation points and all that. So you're pretty pumped up, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I'm always pumped up to come and hang out with any of my fellow bourbon nerds.
Absolutely. So yeah, well, appreciate you coming on, and looking forward to knowing a little bit more about you, because I mean, we do spend a lot of time together. Me, you, McNew. Those are usually 3-4 hour sessions when we're recording. But again, you only get to know so much about on a personal basis when you're doing that kind of stuff. So yeah. So very, very cool. So it'll be a good chance to get to know you a little bit more about you. So very cool. We always like to start out with just kind of a weird question. So just to kind of get to know you a little bit. So when you go to a zoo, what are the animals that you like to go see when you go to a zoo?
Well, I always loved lions growing up. Lion King was one of my favorite movies as a kid. It came out like the year I was born or something. And so I always, go straight to the lions.
Lions are good.
Otters and like red pandas are always really cute to me. My husband, if I'm at a zoo with my husband, he's gonna go straight for the giraffes and be like, "Look, there you are, babe." So he, I'm a little bit taller than him, if you don't know that. But yeah. So I'd say definitely the lions. Any other big cats, I really like to go and see. I specifically remember a couple years ago, I was with my friends in Chattanooga at a special program, and we were at the zoo, and the Titans had just beat the Jaguars, and I like went up to the Jaguar
In your face,
and I was
loser?
like, yeah, how does it feel to be beat by the Titans and all this? And the Jaguar just like walks off and shakes his tail. It's a really funny video. But yeah.
I'm a big fan of the big cats too, because I have cats. My whole life grew up with cats, and it always amazes me because people know that they're related, but you see so many of the behaviors of the cats that you have in your house with the big cats. They do a lot of the same stuff. Their mannerisms are the same. The stuff they do is the same. They're just on a much bigger scale. But it's funny to see if you're a cat person to see the big cats.
I'm definitely a cat person. I have 3. So
have you ever been there when the lion has been roaring? You talk about impressive. I mean, my gosh.
No,
so cool. Oh
like,
gosh, it's awesome.
Sadly, every time I go to like a zoo, they're always like dormant. Like they're just laying there like, get out of here.
That's what they do most of the day, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Robinsons were shaking their heads yes, sir, in the studio audience. You guys have seen the lions roar. It's something to see. My dad grew up a couple blocks away from our zoo here in St. Louis. And he talks about that, hearing them roar all the time. Every day you would hear the lions roar. And just such a cool thing. And I always thought, man, that'd be cool to live by the zoo to be able to hear that. Such a neat thing. So yeah, I was in Hot Springs, Arkansas. No, not Hot Springs. Some other place in Arkansas.
Eureka Springs.
Eureka Springs. Yes, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
That's a good co-host. I was in Eureka Springs, and they got this cat sanctuary, and then they have like Airbnbs there. I want to stay there because the same thing. You can hear the cats at night and stuff like that when they're active, and that would be pretty cool. So yeah, I'm going to do that. That's on the list now. That's on the to-do list. So
you gotta add a Tanzania safari.
Okay.
There's a small refuge down in southern Tanzania.
Yeah.
That you have bungalows right along the river, and the cats come walking along in the evening, and you can hear them purring and growling as they walk by your bungalow. And a Maasai guy stands there at your front door protecting you, and you just hang out and look at all the community and all the lions and everything. It's very cool, and the elephants are there too. It's just a really cool place.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where the next distillers conference is.
Yeah, maybe yes. That's the next place.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So Cailee, tell us a little bit about your career kind of before you got into, because this is the second distillery you worked for. Did you have any professional jobs before that, or did you start out your career in the distilling world?
So actually I was a social worker before my career in whiskey. And actually my career in whiskey just honestly started as something to get through the holidays. And then obviously it's lasted a little bit longer because that was in November of 2019. So looking at a full 2 years later in the industry, definitely, it's a different kind of beast. Bartending and social work kind of goes hand in hand sometimes. You're still listening to people's problems, but sometimes you go home a little buzzed at night instead of crying. So say it's a lot better for my mental health to be outside of the social work career. I loved helping people and doing that sort of thing, but it can be very draining if you're not prepared for it. So I found just kind of a home in the bourbon world, and found people that are just as nerdy as I am, and I've clung to them. So that's what brought me here today.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you got involved in there. We have kind of a rotating list of guests, but we end up the ones that are really enthusiastic and like it. We of course keep inviting on and again. You're certainly on that list. And so why do you like doing that kind of stuff so much? Why do you like coming on the Bourbon Daily and getting so involved and helping out with events? You're recruiting people to come on the events. You got us a new sponsor, for God's sakes. Who does that? We're waiting for McNew to bring me the first sponsor ever. She's been with me for 5 years now. Or something. Still waiting.
Well, I don't know. I think the first time I was invited on, I mean, meeting Becca, I didn't even meet her through necessarily my career in the bourbon world. I just met her by going to the when she brought me on the show. I was thrilled. You know, I didn't really know what to expect. I'd followed on Instagram and things like that, but hadn't actually like physically listened to a full episode until after she asked me to be on the show. And the first time, I think I just fit right in, and I felt like everybody kind of felt the same vibe I did, and we all just kind of clicked. And so I just thought to myself, like, this is a group of people that I don't want to lose touch. I want to keep talking to as often as possible, and I want to share how great this network is with other people. So that's why I got the Leatherwood involved, and Andy was, you know, very quick to say yes, didn't have any questions about it, was happy to support me and happy to support the network. So it was a great thing. I was very happy that I had the balls to ask. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big thing to ask somebody to, you know, put forth money for something that you do, and this was like what, a month into me actually working for them. So
yeah, no, that's really cool. So tell us a little bit about Leatherwood. What do you like about them? You know, ultimately, that's you've been there how long now? Not that long, couple months. Is that?
It'll coming up on 2 months, which I probably need to get. I think I still have I had 60 days to get my bartending license in Tennessee. I already had it in Kentucky, but so I'm coming up on that 60 days there. Just realized that, but I actually. Leatherwood is one of the first distilleries my husband and I ever visited together on one of our first dates. So a couple months back, before we got married, I was looking for wedding bands, and I had seen wedding bands online of bourbon barrels, and I thought, well, let me go down to Leatherwood and see if they can give me a bourbon barrel stave, since it was the first distillery we ever visited together, and our wedding was bourbon themed. So I went over there, and someone like literally pulled a stave off of what they were using as like a, makeshift trash can outside of their distillery. So it's not like cute or anything, but there it is. And so I sent it to this guy that's a handcraft, ring maker and jewelry maker, designer out of bourbon barrels in Louisville. But so, my time with Leatherwood didn't just start 2 months ago or whatever. I've known about them for the past over 2 years now. And then a couple years ago, I guess maybe about a year ago now, first time I really heard the word fucklehead was at Christmas in 2020. And my uncle had gotten involved with Leatherwood, had become, a little bit part owner, and was investing with Andy, and had created the brand Fucklehead under Leatherwood Distillery. So when I was looking for something new in the industry, obviously that's close by, and my uncle had told me that they were looking for some new blood to help run their second location. So I jumped on that opportunity, and right now, in the past 2 weeks, it's just starting to get to full-time work. At first it was just bartending to get to know the people, and which, by the way, we have some of the best customers at Leatherwood. I have some great regulars that come in every Friday and see me, and Saturdays, and the military groups that come in are just fantastic. It is a veteran known distillery. My boss was, Green Beret, Special Forces in the Army. My husband calls the badass of the Army, badasses of the Army. So it's a lot of really cool people like that come in. And so I've really just been enjoying bartending up until the last 2 weeks, and have been doing a lot of kind of clerical and administrative work for Andy, trying to get just back on track. He's needed somebody for a while to kind of step in and be there to do the stuff that he, doesn't necessarily have time to do as the owner, and trying to go out there and sell his product and distribute and things like that.
Right.
So I've been doing a lot of work for him, not just bartending now. And our second location is set to open sometime in December. We're hoping before Christmas. And I actually have a little bit of scoop on Andy, which he told me I could say, since it's probably gonna be too late to announce on the Tuesday interview we have on Tuesday with him. I don't think that'll air by the time this is going to happen, but I think this show probably would.
It'll come out tomorrow morning. So this
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So Andy is actually traveling to New York next week. He's going to be on Fox and Friends. He's going to be promoting the Have You Forgotten 9/11 Snake Eater Bourbon Whiskey and all the other labels that we have with Daryl Worley's 9/11 signature there. So he's going to be promoting that on Veterans Day, which is awesome. We just got that call the other day and very excited for that. We're hoping to launch online sales of those bottles and get the rest sold out. They're going to 3 different charities, which I can pull up. One is the, let's see, let me just pull that up real quick.
Yeah. As you're doing that, as you're pulling that up, tell us a little bit about Andy, because he's a character. I mean, you're talking about a Green Beret, but he distilled everywhere he went. Wherever he was stationed at. I mean, you're talking about places that don't distill. I'm talking Afghanistan. I mean, he's distilling in these very hostile places. Amazing to think about. So tell us a little bit about him as you look up the charities there.
He is a really cool person. He's been fantastic to work with, up close and personal. He's very laid back, but also like ready to, tackle anything that comes up, and easy to work with. But he definitely, like my husband says, he's a badass. Like he is, full on, like has tattoos all over the place, even has his Leatherwood Distillery tattoo on his hands, and his fingers say moonshine and stuff. Like he's really cool. And he is, he's great at distilling, and he's not done with his time in the Army. I think, he's still involved in some aspects of that, which I just found the email with the charities. Didn't want to get the names wrong. I knew them, partly, but so the 3 charities supported by the 9/11 bottles are Special Operators Transition Foundation, Special Forces Association, and Daniel's Journey Home Project. So we're hoping to sell through some of that inventory, because we have a lot to sell through. We made them for 9/11, and now we're hoping that this will be the last push to get most of those bottles sold and get that money to those charities.
Between the Today Show, which is big, and then even bigger than that, you got the Bourbon Show. He's going to be on November 15th. So I would assume that'll fly through all of them, right?
Yeah. So we're getting the
Today's Show here,
ready.
the Bourbon Show, and then So it should be good. I think she froze up. So here, McNew once again is where McNew does her comedy act.
Kaylee's back. I don't have to do
Kaylee's
it.
back. Okay,
We're good.
that's gonna be in season 3 too. McNew has a comedy act ready anytime someone freezes up. So yeah.
I have a while to write some jokes. We'll be good.
So long term then, Cailee, will you be like the general manager of this new location, or what's going to be your role, once you kind of get things stabilized? I know there's a lot of transition time in between now and then, but talk to us about long term, what the plans are for you.
Yeah, so I'm definitely stepping up in more of an administrative role. When the new location opens, I will be working with their head distiller, who will just kind of be both of us running between both locations and making sure everything's together. But I'll be handling most of the bar and the inventory for the tasting room and all that. Hopefully we'll get some tours going again. We've kind of fallen back on that. It's more on distilling, and we don't have really the manpower. I mean, when I'm there bartending on Friday nights, it's normal one bartender. So it's not like we have somebody that can step away and show you the entire facility. So things like that I'll be doing. I don't know that I actually have a title or anything yet. Right now, it's just administrative assistant. I've also lovingly been calling myself Andy's bitch. So I've just been doing whatever I can to help him out. We've had some, accountants come in and look at all the stuff and have a list of things to like catch up on and just get organized. And then once that all comes together, I'll be taking a little more of a leadership role there. And I know he might be stepping back a little bit and wants me to kind of run more stuff for him so he can go out and, like I said, do more selling and distribution, hopefully to some other states and things like that.
Yeah. So it sounds like the company's growing and it's doing really well. So that's a good thing, right?
Definitely.
And where's this new location versus where you're at now?
So the new location is in Clarksville. Pleasant View and Clarksville about maybe 20 to 25 minutes away from each other. We'll be right down the road from another distillery in Clarksville called Old Glory. And then we're going to be right next door to Star Spangled Brewing Company, which is ran by another Special Forces guy that knows Andy and is good friends with him. So we're hoping to kind of, be the best of both worlds. You can go get your beer at the brewery and get your liquor at the distillery and kind of hang out in between in our little patio area we're going to have. So we're very excited about that. And it's not too far from Nashville, about a 45-minute drive from Nashville, whereas Pleasant View is only about 25, 30 minutes. So it'll be a really good spot for us right off the interstate.
Yes, no, Clarksville's good, and it's closer to us, coming your way, right? So, that Nashville's so bad with the traffic. The traffic, the closer you get to Nashville, the traffic's insane. Even on just the interstate, it's bad. So yeah, if us coming down, like me from St. Louis or a group coming from Kentucky, it'll be nice to be able to go to Clarksville and not have to get close to Nashville, where it gets a little dicey with that traffic.
And Pleasant View, it is far enough away unless it's like a 8 a.m. traffic time or like Sunday football, people leaving Nissan Stadium. It's pretty easy to get there, so even to Pleasant View. So. Don't know when you guys are planning on coming, but I'm not sure the new distillery will be ready to host guests for a while. So
yeah, we've got to work on that. We are going to do an event there because you guys have stepped up and you're the sponsor. There's a lot of things that we want to do with you guys, and one of it's just kind of get the crew out there. So yeah, we'll look at the calendar and get that locked down. Kind of crazy times right now, but we will get that rolling for sure. So guess what, Cailee? It's time for a new segment. It's called Question from McNew. McNew, what do you got?
This one is brilliant. Okay, so you're a cat person, you're a distillery girl. What does your dream distillery cat look like? You get to pick it. You can pick it from a shelter. You can get it wherever you want. What's it look like?
I was looking for my cat whiskey.
That's a good answer.
It'd be perfect. I mean, he's a cute little cat. He's an orange tabby cat. I think the most important quality of a distillery cat is not what they look like. The most important quality is how they interact with the people that come in. And I think I would put, if I opened up a distillery tomorrow, I would put Whiskey and Julep and my cat Fizz, he's hanging out with my parents because he's an older cat. But I would put all three of them out at a distillery and they'd be the best store cats, and they just love on people. We've got blessed with 3 great cats. A lot of, there's some cats out there that are pretty scary. I've talked about one on an episode of the Bourbon Daily. So I think I wouldn't pick a new cat. I'd go with my 3. But if I had to, I would definitely go out there and rescue, both of my Whiskey and Julep both came from a shelter. So I'd go out to a shelter and get both of my babies.
The ultimate distillery cat, I'm telling you, is Thumper. That guy at the only family distillery. Yeah.
They need to have a distillery cat training program where Thumper's in charge. You can teach these cats what to do and send them to other distilleries.
Yeah, when they go to when they're talking about the mash and they go over to the Cypress mash tubs, he walks along the thing and does that. And then when they go to the rick house, he starts climbing up and gets on the barrels. It's like he's showing them what they're talking about. It's so weird. It's like he is a professional tour guide. It's pretty amazing. So very cool. All right, we always like to have fun on the last question, and a lot of pressure here because there are plenty of wrong answers. So Cailee, we're going to see what you come up with. What is the best candy bar? What is the best candy bar?
Oh shit.
Yeah, there's wrong answers here, so we'll see how you do.
Steve has feelings about this question.
I have very strong feelings. I know it's good. Yeah.
So like chocolate candy bar. If I'm at a store and I'm just like, I could just grab one that's like easily available, I'm always gonna go for the Twix bar. I really like Twix.
Twix, okay. Twix is okay. So you passed.
I mean,
with like a B. It's not an A, but you did pass. So
what's an A, Steve? What's your favorite?
Well, I mean, if you would have said Butterfinger or Snickers, then you're getting good. So if you'd say like Mounds or something like that, we'd have to throw you off.
Okay, Butterfingers though aren't what
Or
they
a
used
Zero Bar. That's an old person candy bar. You don't want a Zero Bar.
Zero bar. I don't know that the last time I've seen one of those.
to.
What were you going to say, McNew?
No, I said Butterfingers aren't what they used to be. Like I was a 90s kid, thought they were great in the early 2000s. They're not the same anymore. Butterfingers have gone downhill.
No, they haven't.
They
Stop it,
have.
McNew.
They
Stop
have.
it, McNew.
They
I asked
definitely-
McNew what her favorite candy bar was, and she said Sprees. No, that's
No, I
terrible.
did
That's
not.
a terrible answer.
I like Mr. Good Bars. Mr. Good Bars. are
Mr.
great.
Good Bar is good. You get bonus credit for that because that's a really
Thank
good
you.
one that most people don't
One
say.
of my
Yes.
other favorites is the Hershey's, but the
Heath Bar is
cookies and
fantastic
cream.
too. Yeah.
Oh, those are good.
Cookies
I
and
like
cream.
Hershey's cookies and cream. Yes.
Hershey's cookies and cream. Wow. That Hershey's almond one's pretty good too. I like Hershey's in general. It's a great candy. So there you
But
go. Then what, McNew?
Well, so you can say Reese's, but you have to argue if it is it even a candy bar? Because they're
No.
little they're
Circle.
cups. But they're
It
up
works.
there. They're up there when
It
everybody's
counts.
like,
It counts.
everybody loves them.
Like even those peppermint patty things, they count, even though it's not bar shaped. Yeah, that's
Oh,
good. That's
those are
refreshing.
terrible. My niece ate one of those the other night on Halloween, and I wanted to like kick her out of my house. It was, ugh, God, those are
Oh,
gross.
no, it's good.
I
It's
hate
good.
those. Those York peppermint patties. No.
Yeah,
those
that's
aren't
good. York peppermint patty's good. So
Nope.
are Junior Mints. Junior Mints are very refreshing.
Junior mints are fine. I don't like the peppermint patties.
Why?
I just
Like the
don't.
same thing.
They're
same
not.
thing.
They're very different.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right. Well, Cailee, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Let's hear it for Cailee.
Thank you, Cailee.
Kaylee. Let's hear it for
Thank you.
Chris. Chris as
Yeah.
well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent.
Cheers.
So we'll wrap this one up as we always do by talking about where people can find us. Cailee, we'll start with you. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Cailee Baker, also at The Bourbon Bakers on Instagram. I put some fun stuff about my baking and cooking with whiskey, and also
nice.
drinking whiskey, of course. And then also you can find me out at Leatherwood Distillery, hopefully coming soon in Clarksville as well.
Yeah. A couple questions about that. You are a baker. You had like a poll. What were the two offerings that you had? We'll have our group vote. These both sounded fantastic to me. What are your options?
So,
if you're
yes.
thinking about baking for your bourbon buddies this weekend.
So yeah, every Friday I tend to make a bourbon baked good of some sort, and I post it
Okay.
on Instagram, and I bring it in to my regulars on Friday nights. And I posted today, what should I make for my Friday night crew? Mini bourbon apple pies or a apple
Fantastic.
bourbon bundt cake, because I have
Yeah.
lots of apple and I got a little bit of bourbon too. So I'm gonna make it. Ended up everybody voted for mini bourbon apple pies. So
I think that's the
I
way
will
to
be
go. That's what I would
making
have
that.
voted for. Yeah.
Sounds
I would be making that currently, but the last minute thing got me. So I'll make that tomorrow morning probably.
Yeah, those sound good.
Yeah. Appreciate
Yeah.
you coming on and doing this. And last thing I want to say about you, you're a newlywed, right? How long have you been married?
It'll be 5 months tomorrow.
That's a newlywed. That's a newlywed.
Congrats.
So congrats on that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Chris, how about you? Where can people find you?
Chris at Golden Beaver Distillery is my direct email. You can go to Golden Beaver Distillery on both Instagram and on Facebook. And you can always call us here at the distillery. There's still the phone line still works.
Yeah. Yeah. If you listen to our Dixie Hibbs interview, Dixie Hibbs, fantastic person, 79 years old, Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame. We get down to the how can people find you? She just gives out her phone number on the end.
Oh, I love her. That was such a good interview.
we did a warning on there. If anybody abuses that, we're gonna come kick their ass.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic though. How awesome is that? So she's a great person, by the way. So we got to get her on this show, McNew, sometime. So
Oh, for sure. I love that interview today, Steve.
yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, and anything else, Chris? Any other things going on where people can find you?
Just hope people
Come by the
look
distillery.
beyond, come by the distillery, look beyond the Rocky Mountains for American whiskey and bourbon. We got 250 distilleries here in California. That's almost you could take Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Missouri, and they still wouldn't add up to the number of distilleries we got out here in California. So explore California for spirits.
All right. McNew, how about you? Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at McNew ABV.
All right, for me, I'm an easy guy to find. I'm at Steve Akley on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. I've got a website, steveakley.com. We've also got the company website. That thing's abvnetwork.com. That's the one you got to check out. Everything that we do is out there. Previous shows, blogs. You want to check out my book, that's out there. Justine's in charge of her shop. We got all kinds of new stuff in the shop. So check us out, abvnetwork.com. McNew, anything else to say before we get out of here?
I would like to remind the audience to please hit that subscribe button for Bourbon Sasquatch on YouTube, where all of our shows are posted. And when you're watching an episode, please give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, and share it. It helps new people find the show, which is very important to us. And this was our season finale. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for the Bourbon Talk Show. We're wrapping it up today. We'll take a little break through our holiday season, and we'll be back for season 3 on February 24th.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's hear one last round of applause for our guests today, Kris and Cailee. Hey, thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot so much for joining us. We'll have a brand new show for you in February. Take care, everybody. Get well, Arlo. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.